Today's guest is someone whose life is steeped in beauty, mystery, and purpose. She's a ceremonial magician, a seeker, a storyteller, and someone who doesn't just talk about magic, she lives it, breathes it, and teaches it. She also curates experiences where others can find their own way. Joining me is Tonelise Rugaas, a consecrated ceremonial magician, master mason, certified neuro-linguistic programming master coach, artist, tarot reader, and founder of Magical Retreats. For over 30 years, Tonelise has guided others through Hermetic Kabbalah, ceremonial tarot, shadow work, and creative ritual. And in March of 2026, she'll also be in Joshua Tree hosting the Tarot Architect Workshop with Lon Milo DuQuette, a 3-day ceremonial deep dive into tarot as sacred architecture and spiritual technology. I will be there as well. Today, we're exploring what it truly means to raise the collective frequency and how community, storytelling, ceremony, and personal devotion are the tools that get us there. Please help me welcome Tonelise Rugaas. Hello and welcome.
Thank you. How are you? Are you doing good?
I'm doing well. Yes, I am. We are getting through the thick of it with 4 planets in retrograde. So let's start at the beginning. What led you to this path, and what was the moment you knew that your life had become something more spiritual and something more magical?
I can't really remember what led me to anything. All I know is when I found diaries that are written from the age of 8. I was teaching myself tarot really early. I was a bit of a strange child. So it has gone from there while pursuing life as you do and going through the normal mundane part of life. And as for you ask me, when did I become aware that my life was more spiritual? I don't think it is more spiritual than it used to be. It's just life, isn't it? It's just based on what angle one is viewing that. And I'm a firm believer in the fact that there are no people on earth that's more spiritual than others.
Yes, I agree with that. And out of curiosity, because I know my viewers are dying to know, what is your sun, moon, and rising sign?
Oh, crikey. I'm a Capricorn.
Okay, we love that.
Yeah, so do I. I'm a big friend of the goat. My moon sign is Aquarius, and I don't have a rising sign because I'm born north of the Arctic Circle in the middle of the polar night. The sun didn't rise, I was born.
Fascinating.
This is the case for people who are born in the middle of the polar night. It's also the case for people who are born in the summer when the sun doesn't set. They will not have a rising sign either.
Well, that is fascinating. So listen out there, viewers, if you're watching this right now and that applies to you, I'm curious how many of us out there were not born with a rising sign. Comment below. It'll be fun to play that game here.
Maybe this is just another reminder that life is a set of choices. Every single morning you make your first choice, which might be before you even go out of bed. And the rest of the day is filled up with other little choices you do that defines life. And nobody needs a rising sign to define them. You can be whatever you want to be within limits.
But it is true, there's a lot of intention in one's life if you choose to live a magical life. Ideally, you should happen to life, not just allow life to happen to you. That's just my perspective. So I have here that you opened Magical Retreats in 2019. So that would have been right before the big shutdown, is what we'll call it, so that we don't get edited by the YouTube gods. What inspired you to take that leap? And what's helped you keep that vision alive, especially with so many challenges globally in the last few years?
I didn't open in 2019. I held my first retreat under the moniker of Magical Retreats in 2021 after people could travel again. What I did in 2019 and 2020 was to purchase a rather large property in the south of France, in the Pyrenees, where I had the intention, when possible, to hold retreats for people and get them here and basically use my house as a retreat center. I live in the south of France 6 months a year in the Pyrenean foothills in Occitania. The rest of the time I live in Joshua Tree. I'm a resident of Joshua Tree, California. I started doing workshops and retreats there as well, getting really good speakers together after the big shutdown. there was a need amongst people to get away from their screens and to get into a room with other people in it, so that they had an opportunity to contemplate what life is, what spirit is, what magic is, what a magical life is, what beauty is, and basically try to raise their spirit together. We are a flock animal on Earth. So it's fascinating to be in the room when that happens and people are given a community, particularly after a time where there was much loneliness and everything happened in front of screens all around the world. So you may say that 2019 was the prep time and 2021 was the beta testing, and then 2022, 23, 24, that's when I've done this properly.
So, for people that don't know yet, how would you describe magical retreats and what makes it different from other spiritual experiences and other retreats that are available?
I'm not sure about the other retreats, but I can tell you what I'm trying to do. And what I'm trying to do is to bring people together in beautiful, meaningful places and facilitate an adventure-based time where people together can have experiences. In France, in particularly, we do everything from 6th century Visigoths, still consecrated chapels and millennia-old walls, power places that is really hard to find yourself, which is very packed with history. In Joshua Tree, it's more based on a workshop formula that we get together between 3 days or 7 days, depending on the retreat and workshop. There will always be a teacher present. In addition to the actual teaching bit, we are very aware of the environment in which we are. For instance, now in October, I'm doing a workshop with Peter Levenda and Marco Visconti called Stairway to Heaven, which is very much about ascending to the stars. So it makes sense to do it in Joshua Tree, where we're known for our starry skies. And we're getting people to come and show us this, astronomers with huge telescopes. It's not just sitting around. I really need to get people out of their armchairs and bring them together into the world so that there is a conversation going on about this as well, and people can learn from the very, very best. Because frankly, there is absolutely nothing magical in sitting at home in a basement and reading the 4 volumes of Agrippa over and over. It's about getting together good food, beautiful environments, hand-picked groups of people, great teachers in an environment that supports what it is that we are teaching.
That's really a beautiful way to bring people together. And that alone raises the frequency, in my opinion. Honestly, it can be difficult to find a safe space to do that.
Doing magic can be a very lonely road, and it's really hard to find people to do magic with, and particularly to find people to do magic with, or even learning about magic in a place where you feel safe doing so, because that takes a vulnerability to be able to be in a room with other people and learning these things. Getting together in a safe space where you can trust people around you so that you know that you are not being looked down on, you are not being picked out because maybe you know too much or don't know enough. People always think that they don't know enough, particularly in magic. I just have to read this book and that book and this book and that book. And it's a lot of learning that has to go into magic, because you can't enthusize yourself to everything, but it's also practicing it that's important, because if you don't practice it, it's pointless to know a lot about magic.
I agree with that. And the safety is important. And I think for so many people, practicing it becomes the barrier. And I think that it's very experimental. You have to try, you have to get involved. And I love that you've created a space where people can do that. So You're hosting the Tarot Architect Workshop with Lon Milo DuQuette in March of 2026, and I will be there along with some of my viewers, which is going to be very exciting. So I just want to make sure that everyone knows that for more information on the Tarot Architect, everything will be below in the description box. But from the hostess herself, I would love to know, what can people expect from this masterclass, and why is right now the best time to bring this to life?
First of all, Lon and I did a retreat together, or the retreat dash workshop together in Joshua Tree in March 2025, which was more about his Enochian path. And that went so well and was so much fun for everybody, including me, including Lon, that we decided that it was natural to follow that up with a retreat in March 2026. And it's obviously natural to do that around tarot, since he has a new tarot book out called The Tarot Architect, which is basically also styled as a textbook. This is a really good, fun book. It's a very personal path. If you've gone through the text there and you're going through the exercises that he has created, it's a very personal way of understanding the tarot. It's important to understand about Lon DuQuette that he is possibly the tarot teacher in the world that has gone deepest into the tarot in terms of the correspondences with it, i.e., how every single card belongs to an astrological state, how it belongs to a Qabalistic state, how it belongs to an Enochian state, and how every single card is even connected to a place on Earth. So for that reason, I would say that this is the only tarot course people would ever need. And why now? He wants to do it now. And his book is out now. He has the energy to do it now. Lon is not 25. He could be mistaken for a much younger individual because he's really funny. He's really with it. And everyone who's read his books about various subjects of magic knows this as well, that he's funny. He approaches magic not with seriousness, but with humor. It comes in mind almost like a Joker or a kind of character, like, why so serious? But he's also the person that I've met of anyone I know who is working with magic or tarot or Kabbalah and the Enochian path, who are able to take huge chunks of very complicated material and then condense that into a 3-day workshop and make it understandable for people, even if people doesn't have a very endless background in magic. And that's a very specific talent, to be able to teach these things, to give people a tool that they can consult when the going gets tough and the tough gets going.
I'm personally very excited to go. So that's going to be happening in Joshua Tree at Magical Retreats, and that's going to be on March 20th, 21st, and 22nd. So it's a lovely 3-day weekend retreat. And I believe that's right in the middle of the equinox. Is that correct? Time?
Yeah, the equinox, that's exactly when the equinox happens. And people who has worked with the equinoxes knows that this is also the New Year's Eve for magicians. It's when, if you want to go down the astrological path, it is when we move into Aries, which basically is the use of the astrology. And also in the tarot, then you will move into the time of the emperor, which is ruled by Aries. So for that reason, it's also a really good time to do it, because it invites a newness in to the world of the attendees. So it's perfect to add new knowledge. And I'm saying new knowledge, but some of this will be new to the attendees. But the point of this is pretty ancient knowledge with archetypes that stretches back to before the dawn of time.
I'm very excited. And I think that this class also like you pointed out, will speak to all levels of practitioners. And so, for those of you out there that are looking to study tarot and dig deeper into it and understand it for what it really is, because it's much deeper than just pictures on a card or fortune telling, it is a lifelong study. But Lon definitely makes it accessible and relatable and practical. His information will be linked below as well. And he will be on Stars with Stasi to talk further about this amazing workshop.
And another thing is you saying about pictures on a card. Of course, the tarot is also that. And then that's what's so fascinating about it, because on one hand, it's a fully functional, actual model of cosmos. On the other hand, it's Renaissance art.
So here's an example of one of Lon's deck. This is Tarot of the Ceremonial Magic. And so the book itself, Tarot Architect, uses this deck, but you can use Rider-Waite-Smith as well. And it's encouraged to create your own deck from it as you work the book. But just as an example, for those of you that are curious, it does break it down into not just the artistry of it, but as you can see, the elements, the Hebrew letter, and it goes into much more detail. And I think that understanding this is a gateway to understanding oneself. But that's just the way I see tarot. How do you see it?
I see tarot as many things. I see it as an archetypical picture book. It emerged in a time where people couldn't read. It emerged around the Italian Renaissance and pre-Renaissance, and it was based on archetypes they had already. Not even aristocratic people could read. It emerged as a game to play. Reading and writing was left to monks, scribes. Stories were told in pictures. So it's a picture book, but it's also an art collection. And it can connect us very deeply with our own past, particularly with our archetypical past and spiritual past. I'll just show you here. I also do this thing here when I'm in Occitania for people who fancy it. I take them around and I show them sacred sites here, personal for them based on what they are interested in. And I just came back from one of these things where you, for instance, have archetypes like this. I don't know, it's a bit of a glare because of this bloody light circle. Yeah, not that different from the Empress. And this is, obviously it's from a church, but the actual statue is pre-Christian in many cases. This one is from Rocamondor, it's another Black Madonna. And these things, basically goddess worship that is happening to this day, hidden in absolute plain sight. It's also a Notre Dame de, connected to most churches here in France. It's goddess worship, really. So I'm just saying that to give an example of archetypes that are alive in spirituality in the world today, that is obviously reflected also in the tarot, in the picture book that tarot is. If you want to see the tarot archetypes, you don't have to look far, you can look around you. You can look at, for instance, a classic shadow archetype is Batman, who literally comes out in the dark and takes his name after the only creature he's really afraid of. And with good intentions, doesn't always work, but hey, there you go. Lone warrior, that's a classic shadow archetype. And in pop culture, you can see them all the time. The wounded healer archetype you can see in every single mainstream American hospital show. It's based on archetypes. That's why we connect with everything we do. Either the pictures are moving or the pictures are still, or it's something around you through this interface, which is the only interface sometimes to believe in. Everything is always recognizable because our lives are magical. Does that make sense to you?
It does. It does. Yeah. Again, I think that it's always about reminding, especially the newer practitioners or just people that sometimes get lost in the sauce, right? It happens to all of us with the ebbs and flow of life. But again, it's intentional steps. And that's what magical living is, in my opinion. It's just, if nothing else, about being intentional and allowing yourself to happen to life instead of just waiting for things to happen to you. So when we're talking about magic, what does that mean to you? And how would you define it for someone who might be new to this concept, but curious about magic and the mystery behind the veil, so to speak?
I wouldn't even begin to try to define it. It's not my place. What I would maybe do is to try to give examples of what can be magical if you let it be. Imagine, again, to me, the biggest superpower and the biggest magical act human beings are in possession of and holders of are the ability to see, understand, and create beauty for the sake of creating beauty. That's the one thing that divides us from animals. Animals and us, we have everything else in common. But humans pursue beauty for the sake of it. No animal does
Wow.
that. And we all create an alchemy in our lives. And if we do something too much, it can tip over. If we don't have enough of something else, it tips over and we feel unbalanced and we can start feeling afraid. Let me give you an example of an alchemic magical act, and it's cooking a meal. Because you basically take some plants, then you take some oils derived of plants, and then you might take some seeds derived of plants that you use as spices, and maybe some pieces of an animal that has died for you for your meal. And all of these different things are then put together, balanced, transmuted into something that will nourish your body, and if done right, is something that you can share with people you care about, or you can do it for yourself and you feel better off afterwards and you can bring some beauty into the world. That's an example of a magical act, because that's a classic example of what it means, what transmutation means, when you take lots of little elements and you basically create almost a kind of philosopher's stone out of everything. A painting is another example. You got some powders and minerals, you got some oils, or maybe you buy it ready in a tube, that's fine. You have some pigments, you have a stick with some fur on it, and a piece of cloth stretched on wood. And then you put this together, and then all of a sudden what you have made, hopefully, is something that will touch yourself or another human being deeply in their souls. That's transmutation also. That's real alchemy. That's an example of how to have created a piece of magic. And then if you want to put symbolism into that, you can put symbolism into anything. You can put ginger and flowers and berries and everything into your food. It's all symbolic. Or you can paint symbols and enhance that. But you don't have to, because success is proof. The magic is done in the act. It's not done in preaching to others. It's done in the act. It doesn't demand more of us than being aware of how lucky we are to live right now. There's never been a better time to be alive. And being able to do stuff in our lives that creates beauty. That's all it takes to be a magician. If you want to sit and read stuff and learn more about it, and maybe learn how this is done in a formulaic way, how people used to do it in this culture, that culture, whatnot, it's an interesting route, but it's not necessary. But if people are called to do that, fine. And the result is extraordinary. The result is that we find that we are basically all the same, all of us, even most roads of magic and all roads of religion, religio, back to the source, that's the meaning of the word. It's all the same thing. And it can be as easy as that.
Agreed. One of the things that I have heard you say during this conversation and one other time in our prior talks was that there's never been a better time to be alive. Can you explain more on why this is one of the best times to be alive?
Never ever have so many people had food to eat. Never ever have so many people have had access to shelter. And of course, I'm not negating that there are terrible things going on in the world, but we no longer take our children to the town square on Saturday to see people being hung, drawn, and quartered as entertainment. And education has never been so available to people, particularly girls. And there was a time you had to become a nun if you wanted to have a chance to study as a woman. And don't even get me started on the miracle that's modern medicine that gives us real choice in terms of longevity, so that we have time to deep dive if we want to into things that it's not necessary to learn, but it's fun to learn, and it makes us better people if we learn it. It's evident it's never been a better place to be alive, and we have a chance to get together and understand that and create community around each other, because we're flock animals and maybe we spend too much time alone. Maybe we spend too much time in front of screens, and then we forget that there is so much joy to be had by being around other people and doing fun stuff, even going to a concert, something, whatever people like different stuff. Go hiking together, sit in a room in Joshua Tree and laughing and listening to Lon talk about what corresponds to the Wheel of Fortune, which is something that will blow people's minds, but having fun together at the same time. And the people who came to his workshop in Joshua Tree last year are still hanging out on the groups that they created on WhatsApp. A couple of them have gone on holiday together. Maybe not everybody is looking for a community like that, but it's a value in it. The same happened with the people who came here to France, to my house, to do the Towards Heliopolis retreat last year here, which was very much about goddesses, Babylon, Thelema. It was very into that. And they're still chatting as well. So if we're not alone, we have a chance to take time to create beauty. And we can do that as a group. And that's basically what I'm trying to do in Joshua Tree in March 2026 when you're coming as well. So you'll be able to see it for yourself. And also October 2025 with Peter Leander. That's going to be another fun one. Yeah, to me, it's not really about, it's about beauty. All of it is about beauty. It's about trying to understand it, just experiencing it. And it doesn't have to be what people think it is. For some people, it could be a bouquet of flowers. For other people, it could be a dark horror movie. I don't care. Beauty is what it is. And if it touches your heart and give you awe, it is per definition beauty. And that is something to aspire to as a part of mankind on this earth. And that will make the earth a better place to be.
Agreed. I believe that raising the frequency includes people finding their true north, following their path, and creating in the world whatever it is that they're meant to uniquely express, because no two people are meant to do the same work. And even if it's similar, we're meant to have our unique expression within it. When we were speaking earlier off camera, I really enjoyed your perspective on shadow work. So that's a term that's thrown around quite easily here. For some people, it may mean facing your deep darkies, right? That's how I jokingly call it, or looking at difficult truths about yourself or what you perceive and how to confront that. I often think of the strength card and the Rider Waite for reference, right? It is about understanding that is part of you. And when you are thinking about what we call shadow work, how do you see that?
As someone who's born on the darkest day, in the darkest place of earth at that time, I'm not afraid of the dark. To me, it's not really shadow work, it's just work. Spending time alone, which people have been forced to do, but a lot of people haven't done it without distractions. Spending time alone triggers questions in us. I ended up having a philosophy degree because the only thing that interested me was the idea of thinking. And what you might call shadow work is what I might call the big, beautiful questions. Who are we? What's our purpose? What's the meaning of us? What's the meaning of life? How do we fit into it all? What is this person that I don't know in myself? Why do I react doing A, B, and C when everybody tells me I should do C, D, and E? And why do I feel misunderstood sometimes? Why do I feel out of place sometimes with others, etc.? All that stuff. To me, shadow work has to do with just self-acceptance. It's about being able to just go into the basement of oneself and have a look around. And that can take a little bit of courage, maybe, but that's the interesting stuff is found. But it doesn't have to be scary. It doesn't have to be horror. It doesn't have to be gothic in character at all. It's the tales of the unexpected that we all carry inside of us. And it's also coming to terms with ourselves and the reason we do our choices. And maybe that can give us courage to do real individual choices and not just choices that we think that if we do A, B, and C, we will be more seen, we will be more popular. Everyone knows that often backfires usually. Because shadow work is the work you do when you stand alone and you turn your eyes and you look at what kind of view do I really have? What is my background for seeing the world as it is for me? And then understanding, and that's interesting to me at least, to understanding that if I'm such an individual and I have all these thoughts in me, then everybody else have them too. And not only do they have them, they have the right to have them. Again, that is something that connects us. And again, I will give an example in popular culture and art. Some of the best paintings on earth, some of the best movies on earth has been made because somebody highlighted their shadow. And that shadow may not be a shadow for somebody else. It might be a hero. A part of the hero's journey is to also have the courage to go inside. Most comedy is based on this. It's based on seeing the more ironic, darker, satirical, vulnerable side of humans and human lives and human emotions, human feelings, human choices, and then putting that on, just creating a thematic around it that actually makes it funny, which probably is why laughter is such a huge part of magic. If you can't laugh of it, it's not magical enough. One has to laugh of everything. Even Crowley used to say that if you can't laugh, you need to lighten up a bit, basically.
Right, really missed the mark, yeah.
But I don't think the shadow exists. I think we are a whole. And what is a shadow? A shadow is an illusion created by life because the light falls in a particular way on a very particular time of day. When the sun's above us, there is no shadow. When there is no sun, there is no shadow. So the shadow is a daytime occurrence. It doesn't really happen at night when it's dark. And it's a complete illusion because the human being has no shadow.
That is so beautifully said and really something to think on, to be honest. So in your work, it's read that you often blend Hermetic Kabbalah, tarot, ritual, and art in your work. How do these systems speak together, and how do you use them to create a transformational space?
First of all, they're different aspects of exactly the same thing. Tarot and the Kabbalah goes like that. The correspondence in every single tarot card are different, but they have a Kabbalistic correspondence, a Hebrew letter. So it literally is the same thing because both of them are examples of models, functioning models of cosmos. I mentioned earlier how art is an alchemic act. So is music in exactly the same way. For people, art is for people who are very visual. Art is a lot of things, but I'm talking about visual art, paintings. Particularly used as an example. If you listen to a sound installation, or you are in the middle of a built art installation, or you're walking around in something as tactile as a sculpture, that's a completely different way. But for people who are more auditory, music is a very important art form, and as it is for all of us, popular music, pop music, is perhaps one of the most important art forms on earth because of the very particular way it has to unite people and create memories. And Ozzy's just gone and died, and we see how much that has united people to a really surprising degree. It was surprising to me to see the King's Guard in London, those dudes with the red coats and the tall bear hats, their orchestra outside of the Royal Palace playing Paranoid this morning.
Wow.
Paranoid by Sabbath. Again, this is a way of creating alchemy. If a musical note is alchemy, and if the people who come together to do this, and then you have pieces of wood with strings on it, tuned in a particular way, and you put that together with wooden things with skins on it that you beat on with sticks, then what you are getting is an absolutely important piece of alchemy that really have an opportunity to, in magical ways, move people and help them remember their best memories, their worst memories, and connect to that.
It's important to discuss these things because I think sometimes people miss how, like, they miss the mark. They forget for whatever reason that it's that journey into music, into sound, into frequency, into art, into anything creative that one can express through their own will for the sake of creating is in my opinion, one of the fastest ways and most expressive ways to raise the frequency. And it starts with you raising it within yourself. And that alone is catchy, in my opinion, right? Inspiring through art, you inspire others, you do bring people together. And even there's been many studies done with people who are having Alzheimer's and things like that, dementia, where music is the thing that will trigger a memory, a comfort, and bring healing immediately. It's beautiful.
Yes, and I completely concur with the last bit there, because it was Alzheimer's that took my mum, so I've seen that happen. It's absolutely fascinating. But the beauty of it all is that you don't even have to create it yourself. It's enough to sit and listen to it. And if you listen to it with other people, then you get another set of memories that has value in other ways. The point is that everything that is perceived as beautiful and uniquely human have an opportunity to change our lives. And when we do this workshop in March 2026, where the thematics is tarot, but Lon says, oh yes, and I need a little kind of instrument. And then he describes the instrument to me. And I'm like, do you need an instrument for? Obviously, I will get him the instrument, but it's because he is going to make people tune into certain sound frequencies that goes with the cards as well, so that we can meditate to that and see how sound frequencies can trigger the meditative value of the different the tarot archetypes, because this covers more what we are talking about here. And that's fun. And that's something I haven't seen a tarot teacher do before. But anyone who's performed any type of ritual, any type of magic, or even a yoga class. And that's a way of not only forcing the body to breathe, because if you can't breathe, and a lot of people just breathe puffily with the top of their lungs. If you can't breathe properly, you can't live properly. And singing music, chanting has always been a part of the human way of expressing creativity and also sharing with others. We sing psalms in churches. And trust me, I lived in London for 22 years, love football, Chelsea till I die. And I miss going to a football match and chanting basically everything we do together. But music also comes into ritual in a very direct way, to music that is played, music that is interpreted, and music that is chanted and sung. And I know ghosts, when people go to gigs with them, they call their gigs rituals. One can think what the heck one wants to think about that. For everyone who's seen a Wagner opera, the truth of the matter, and even the Magic Flute by Mozart, is an absolute ritualistic experience. Yeah, so all of these things, when you're talking about raising the frequency, I don't even think one has to try to raise it. It's there. All we have to do is to see it, to pay attention to it, and notice it, and not let white noise, and for goodness sakes, get together and do cool shit and move the eyes away from the screens once in a while. So magic has a chance to just live through us, and then we don't have to read 4 volumes of Agrippa. And then once in a while, a great teacher comes along. And I was surprised to find, because I've done a little bit of reading, that I have the John Dee collected. It's about this thick, right? What a nightmare and headache it was to get through that. It wasn't even fun. It was awful. But one must persevere. It's like taking medicine you don't like. It's just, oh my God. After 3 days with Lon, the whole thing was completely clear and understandable in a small way, and definitely enough. And then it was fun. And I had a whole bunch of new friends. So I was like, yeah, that's how it's done. Okay. I'm not saying I don't think we should, particularly with what goes on now with information available to us, but also how it's twisted. This is definitely the time to get together and talk about what we have read and what we have done and what we want to read and what we want to learn, and basically learn from people who's been teaching for some time. So then they know how to do it. It's a science. So what is it? It's beauty, and it's about having fun. If we manage to do that, we make the world a better place.
Agreed.
The best way possible to commit a political act is to notice beauty and to create something beautiful. And that doesn't have to be that hard. You can paint your wall, Go get some new t-shirts, hug your friend, tell someone you love them, pet a dog or a cat or whatever, plant a plant. Don't abuse our bodies, just in small ways. Our lives can be supercharged in a way that we live more in accordance with what it means to be a human. And if that's not a spiritual or magical way, I don't know what is. But then again, I don't know anything. The older I get, the more I'm aware of how very little I know. That's okay.
Isn't that the
But
truth? I feel like you're always learning and repurposing old lessons, and they come through again in a slightly different way, and you learn something new about yourself, your
yeah.
environment. And I think that in itself is beautiful.
Did we not have a chat once about what would you tell your youngest self?
Yeah. So
Yeah,
if you were talking to another version of you, what's the advice that you would give to yourself? What would you say?
I would say, gosh, what would I say? Don't let the bastards grind you down, maybe. But I would also add, why so serious? When I was 16, I was an awful, absolute little awful snob who thought that everything I was thinking and doing and planning was the right thing and everybody else was wrong, particularly people who were older than me. I quickly learned that was not the case, and I suppose that's growing up. And now I'm 57 and I'm like, I know nothing. I know absolutely nothing, but oh, that's a pretty flower. Maybe another thing when you're really young, unless you've had some real traumas and challenges in your life, which is something that is true for so many, but hopefully most people haven't been confronted with their own mortality yet, right? I was convinced I would, or more or less convinced that I would live forever, and there was no way that I could see an end to anything. It was just like, yes, just go for it, do
The
what
ego
you.
is strong the younger you are.
Very. Personally, I don't think there's anything wrong with ego, really. I know that's like swearing in church right now, in like spiritual. Ego becomes important when you know that you are a part of everything that is, and that you're an integral part of everything that is, but so is everybody else, right? So then ego becomes less threatening. But a 16-year-old has an absolutely intolerable ego. I have no patience for it anymore. I'm very happy that I have the authority of age. After I was 50, I just stopped giving a damn. And I've heard myself say, under a couple of occasions, to people much younger than me, and I know that sounds really horrible, but it just fell out of my mouth, is please, I cannot listen to any more of the drivel. I've lived more than half a century and you talking BS. And then now I have the advantage of age. So the reply is, yes, ma'am. And I love it.
I tell you, I feel that right now. I will be 50 this year on my solar return.
It's
And
brilliant.
yeah, I tell you, I feel that deeply. I don't have the patience, the time, the energy to entertain the bullshit that was me.
Also in society, when women hit middle age and the dreaded menopause word, and I'm not going to start preaching feminism because this is not the right place to do it.
We'll
But
do another interview for that one because I
no,
want to preach it. No.
all right. But the moment you hit 50, you, in very many ways, you instantly become, it's fascinating, instantly you become a bit invisible in certain situations. That is fun to use for certain things. That also means that it becomes easier to be a listener. And that's a fascinating thing to be. It's like a superpower to be invisible, isn't it? I'd love it. That was something that if I could just turn that on and off, I'd take it, absolutely take it as a superpower. But it happens to women over 50. You literally, people are bumping into you sometimes. No, I didn't see you there, love, sorry. But it can be a superpower. And this is when you start talking about space, that women have to, their own way, demand a space, right? And again, coming back to what we talked about earlier about the cultivation of an existence of and having the ability to notice beauty. Think about this. This used to be women's work to a great degree. It was women were the gardeners, women were the people who cooked the food, women were the homemakers, and women that went, even carry babies. So women were the ones that had the ability, the superpower to pull this beauty into the world. But if somebody went and made a job out of it and became a professional chef, I bet you 9 out of 10 times that would be a dude. But this means one thing is not more valuable than the other. The point is that if we continue that kind of work and feel proud of it and see the awe of what can be created in these things that used to be seen as simple things, which they most certainly are not, and just do the most out of everything we do. Stop doing easy solutions. And fast fashion is killing the environment, right? Fast food is killing us.
It really is.
Yeah, exactly. Don't even get me started on reality TV and fast entertainment, apart from the Osbournes, which was brilliant. Then I'm showing my age here, but I don't care. And everything that has a word in front of it that starts with fast is probably bad for you or the planet in any way. Take your time and don't let anyone hurry you. If it takes a little bit more time to create more beauty and practice some awe, take the time.
I think for me, one of the big takeaways of this would be there is no wrong way to express you. No one can tell you, it's not prescribed by someone else. However, you choose to bring beauty and magic into this world, as long as it's uniquely you and yours and authentic and sharing of your true self, I think that right in itself is the path ahead. Live your life, enjoy the beauty of you, because you are worth that exploration of digging into the shadows or digging into the light, or just understanding they're both sides of the same coin. There's no wrong way for you to live. And what would you want to leave others with as we are wrapping this up?
Just do one thing every day out of kindness, whatever that is. Just be kind. That's all we need to do. And it doesn't hurt to come see Ron, who I'm proud to call a friend and warmly recommend to be in the same room. It doesn't hurt to come together with other people wherever you want to do it, whether it's the night sky, whether it is goddesses and history and castles and alchemy, or whether it is the tarot, the Enochian path, and the Qabalistic path, and everything that Lon teaches, as long as you get together with other people so that we can raise our spirit together in beautiful places and have a chance to be inspired to be kind to each other.
I love that. Thank you so much for being here. And I do hope that all of us, because I will be there. I will be there in March. Tickets booked. I'm excited. And again, Lon is coming on Stars with Stasi this month. So stay tuned for more on that. And in closing, as I always say, we're all stars from the sky with feet on the ground, and we really are doing the best we can with the information that we have. So be kind to yourselves and each other. And as always, may the magic that we weave and the words that we speak bring healing to all those who seek it. Have a great week ahead. Thank you for being here. I hope that to see you again in March and back on this channel. Everyone, shine brightly and have a great week ahead.